Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Shopmaker, the podcast all about mindset. Today, we are joined by Nate Kresge, founder of GK Visual. He was named one of Central Pennsylvania's Business Journal's 40 Under 40 and is a member of the Academy of Interactive and Visual Arts. Nate produces and directs GK Visual's Mid-Atlantic Emmy-nominated series on Pennsylvania's craft beer, poured in PA. I think you'll find this conversation to be eye-opening as he reveals the importance of sharing your story and the significance of marketing in your business.
All right. Welcome to this episode of the Shopmaker podcast. I'm so excited today to be joined by Nate Kresge, who is going to kind of enlighten us on all things marketing, especially with video. Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So I'm thrilled to have this conversation because I think it's something that a lot of business owners don't spend enough time in, which is marketing and advertising and telling your story and all of that. So can you start off by, I guess, sharing with us some of the important things in that space?
Sure. Yeah, marketing is such a wide genre. I have a video production company called GK Visual, and we kind of lean towards the visual side of things. So photography, videography, and that kind of encompasses everything from TV to social media, in-house communications, trade shows, you name it. It's a visual world for sure. So there's no end to what our work ends up doing and where it's seen. So people are visual these days, they're online constantly. Our phones are attached to us. It's tough to peel a screen away from kids, people. We're all the same, we're constantly feeding our eyes. So we need to be mindful of that with marketing. And unfortunately, a lot of times marketing takes a backseat to all the other expenses that we have as a business. I mean, there's accounting, there's payroll, there's cleaning, there's, your building needs fixed. And marketing is kind of like, all right, well, I have a few extra dollars. Let me throw that into marketing. And I get it. I'm guilty of it sometimes too. And unfortunately, you can have the best product, you can have the best service, you can have the best food and atmosphere. But if people don't know about it, nobody's coming, and word of mouth is great. But the way social media works now, that kind of drives word of mouth for us. And so creating those visuals and getting that message out is vital. And it becomes even more so there's so much noise out there. There's so many people vying for attention. Making sure that your voice is the one being heard is the tricky part.
Yeah. And talk to us, I think a lot of people listening are, independent restaurant owners who have, maybe a following in their local area. But talk to us about what the importance is, especially on the video side, especially when you look at your website and everything. It seems like the world is moving into everyone kind of having this video presence, which I think is new to a lot of business owners who say, well, why would I need to do a video? You could just, walk through the door. So I think talk to us about how that can actually move the needle for even your, local pizza restaurant.
Yeah. And video is interesting for us over the years. We've seen this shift. We do a lot of commercials for TV. And when we were doing these, we'd say, well, why don't we create something that you can put on social media or your website? And nobody looks at that, nobody, we just need this for TV. And it's funny how much that has shifted. Now it's like, we're just going to put this on social media. We don't need it for TV. And the reason is, like I said before, our phones are attached to us. Our screens are constantly bombarding us with imagery. And so when you're scrolling, I'm guilty of this. I'm just mindlessly scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. And I know TikTok's really big now, but it's those videos that catch your attention. Yeah. It's moving images. It's a catchy one image. You see a lot of text, you just keep going.
Yeah.
Especially when you're tired, you don't want to read. Yeah. Especially for restaurants. Restaurants are always doing something creative and new, and food is so visual. Locations are so visual. People want to see what your place looks like. They want to see what the food looks like. They want to see what those drinks look like. And we make fun of a lot of people. The first thing, what a lot of people do, the first thing they do when food's served to the table, they get out their phone, they're taking pictures.
That's so true.
Take advantage of it. Your customers are already doing the work for you in a lot of cases. Grab those, hopefully they're tagging you in them. Grab those photos, repost them, show that people are dining there and enjoying the food and take advantage of those visuals.
That's so true. So one thing that like we dwell on a lot on this podcast, just because it's restaurants, is the impact of COVID on industries, right? So we all know the impact of COVID on the restaurant industry, but what really, if any, was the impact of COVID to the marketing world?
Yeah, we weren't sure what that was going to look like for us. Nobody knew what it was going to look like for them, I should say. But it was impactful. It forced us to really focus on messaging. And what we found is a lot of our clients shifted their messaging from here's what we have to offer, our services, our products, to here's how we're helping. Here's how we can help you. How can we help you? And getting that message out that we're all in this together, that, give us a call. If you need a hand, if you need anything, we're here. And it was a humbling experience. A lot of our clients came to us and just said, we need to get a message out that we're here to help. And that was everything. We do a lot of work with breweries. So we have a beer series called Poured in PA that you can find on YouTube. But a lot of that messaging was these breweries shifting to packaging to go sales, and then some of the distilleries shifting to making hand sanitizer and just helping out the neighborhood. Help a lot. Unfortunately, the restaurants, they would open, they'd order all this food, and they get shut down. So they're left with all this food. So it was really cool to see a lot of these restaurants, bars doing to go meals or helping out food banks and just trying to make the best of a terrible situation. But the only way people knew about that was through social media and posts and videos and messaging. So it was vital during that time to get the word out.
Yes. And that's one of the, actually one of my next questions was, so I, met you guys at the Brewers Guild in the fall in Pennsylvania. And it's fascinating, the Poured in PA series that exists. So talk to us about that and the fact that, breweries can get videos for themselves, right? Like, please talk to us about that, because that's a fascinating way to help the breweries.
I'll try to do a real quick summary of how this all came to be. As a video production company, we're always on the road, and often that means overnight stays in towns we're not familiar with. But one thing that was always familiar to us is a brewery at the end of the day. And you sit down a local brewery, you get to talk to. Oftentimes, you're sitting across the bar from the person that made the product that you're enjoying right there, and what a cool experience that is. And so we'd always seek out breweries anywhere we were, and eventually we're like, we're a video production company. Why don't we tell this story? And we started off with a local film called Brewed in the Burg. That's for your Pittsburgh, anybody in Pittsburgh. It's no H on the end. That's just Harrisburg. I think you can still find that on YouTube. That was the beginning of this whole thing. And then we did, after we put that out, want to tell Pennsylvania story. So we produced a 90-minute documentary called Poured in Pennsylvania. That's also on YouTube. That came out 2018. And so that kind of gave a overview of the landscape of Pennsylvania's brewing industry. But that story is constantly changing. And so to keep up with that, we developed the series Poured in PA, and that's where we are now. I think there's over 30 episodes on YouTube. And that's telling everybody's story. It's not necessarily going to a brewery and saying, all right, here's our new IPA and here's our Kolsch. This is, how they get into brewing. What started this? Breweries that cater to families and kids, events for the kids. There's places to travel. You can stay overnight. There's Black-owned breweries that are popping up across the state and the story behind them, and women in brewing. It's just all sorts of different things. So, and there's no end in sight. Just like restaurants are very philanthropic, the breweries are too. So we get to tell a lot of those cool stories. So that's ongoing. If you're a brewery in Pennsylvania, by all means, let us know what you have going on. And we're not necessarily looking for, hey, we just bought a new tank for our brewing operations. We're looking for something a little bit more deeper than that. And what we're launching now for breweries is helping them with their social media. So that's anything from just supplementing what they're already doing, creating content for them with photos and video, or completely taking over their social media and helping them drive that message to potential customers.
Wow. And what positive impact have you seen so far of the 30 that have done this? Like, has it made a difference in their volume?
Yeah, it's funny. We're sometimes in a bubble. We're so just focused on getting the show out that we don't get to hear all the stories. And so we travel to a lot of beer festivals now, and we'll constantly have people coming up to us and saying, hey, I love that episode with this brewery or this story, or I can't wait to watch the new one. And that's such a cool experience to know that people are out there watching it. But the best thing is to go into a brewery and say, hey, I just had a couple in here from Pittsburgh and we're here in Harrisburg. They said they saw us in Port PA. They wanted to check us out. So there's a real connection there. And it's not a hard sell. And I think it's tough when we're in marketing. We think we got to like jam down the throats of everybody. Like, all right, here are our hours. Here's our new specials, blah, blah, blah. When people really gravitate to your story, they want to know what's behind your product and how you became to be and who you are. And the whole farm to table movement that we saw a number of years ago, one of the biggest reasons that did so well is people want a connection to the products that they consume and hear the stories behind them.
Definitely. And I think that's, another thing we, touch on here is just, not being afraid of branding yourself and telling your story and all of that, from seeing so many breweries, because, we deal a lot with breweries as well, from seeing so many, what do you think is one thing that sets apart, your great brewery from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is that connection to the customer base. I think just as anybody, like I said, I sometimes get in my own bubble and kind of lose sight of what we're doing. Breweries can fall into that same trap where they're just looking to get that beer out and make sure that, payments are being made and employees are getting their paychecks, but really listening to the customers and connecting with them. And, I keep going back to this, but social media is such a great way to do that and listen to what's being said on there. And it's tough. You're putting out a product and there might be people that don't like it, and that's always going to happen. You can't please everybody. And, especially in the brewing world, there's Untapped, and in the restaurant world, these Yelp reviews and stuff, they're tough to stomach sometimes, I'm sure. But it's how you deal with that, how you roll with that. How do you take a bad review and turn it into something good? Or how do you respond to that customer who was angry about their not being able to split their bill between 20 different people, and just rolling with a positive message the whole way through it. And what is your story? What is your message? And try to keep that in focus as opposed to constantly battling negative comments.
No, definitely. And, I guess, another thing that's interesting in the, world of where we are right now in hospitality is that you also have people that are coming in new to the industry, right? As much as you have people that have maybe gone away or chosen to sell or exit, you have a bunch of new people, I think, coming in, especially on the brewery side, who maybe didn't like their corporate job and don't want to go back in. So now we're going to make beer. So, as a marketing person and someone who is, interested in telling that story, where do you think is some of the places they should start in marketing and where things are right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of that doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. It starts with very clear messaging. Again, social media is cheap. It's you can even do very targeted paid advertising through Facebook and Instagram, and people are looking. They're looking for that. Restaurants are the same way. People want to dine out, and they get people. Unfortunately, we all want something new, So people get tired of the same old thing. So they're looking for a new place to dine out. They're looking for a new drink to try, something new, And they want to tell others about it too. So encourage your customers to take pictures of their food and selfies and share that with their friends. These bars and restaurants that put up their social media tags or a QR code that helps them find you on social media and make it easy for your customer to share those things is great. And then the more traction you get in that area, you're not paying much at all for it, and, radio is great, TV is great, billboards are great, but take advantage of what's already happening. It will just build on itself. Yeah.
Yes. No. And I think that's important, like you said, just to not always think you have to throw money at it, but be creative in the ways that you can. Now, knowing marketing and knowing all these platforms, if I'm a, single unit brewery, right? How much time should I be spending on my marketing every week?
That's tough. I mean, there isn't time.
I know.
End of the day, it's cleaning is usually the first thing that comes up with a brewery, and then making beer, I guess, would be second. And by the time you get through everything else you have to do, from taking out the trash to taxes and payroll, there's not a whole lot of time. So what I would say with marketing is give it as much time as you can. But if you can try to carve that out and plan that into your weekly schedule, it's going to make a world of difference for you. And a lot of times these breweries that don't have a budget to hire a firm like ours to do this often will have a bartender who's like, hey, I'd love to try to do some of the social media. And they'll give them the opportunity. And, and the one thing to keep in mind here is if you do that with somebody on your staff, just remind the rest of the staff that this person is taking pictures for a purpose. It's not like they're just taking a long break with a beer, but encourage that with your staff and see if you might have the talent within your walls already. Same with restaurants. You don't know who's back of the house that could really be benefiting you and would love to take a try at it, and it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just a little bit here and there. Consistency is the biggest problem here. You might post something one week and then another month, another post. Nobody's seeing it.
Right.
Posting every week, posting every couple of days. That's the key.
Yeah. And I think the consistent messaging, I mean, I think not to, sell you guys, but it is true that what we see is the businesses that invest in building that brand awareness and building that consistent messaging, even if eventually it is your bartender doing the post. I mean, I think that really goes a long way to getting you to the next level.
And not to be discouraged if you're not seeing results the second you make a post. My wife and I, at the beginning of this year, bought a personal fitness studio that we're trying to, it's been around for 10 years, but it's needs some marketing help. So we're doing a lot of posts, trying to launch classes, these HIIT classes, bar classes. And we're not seeing a lot of people come in through the door right away, but it's being consistent, getting the people, encouraging people that are there to do their own posts. And little by little, we're seeing it build. But it's not going to be one day you wake up and you start doing these posts and all of a sudden there's a line out your door. It takes some time to build, and you shouldn't be discouraged if it doesn't happen as fast as you had hoped.
Well, and I agree, because I've had conversations, I think, especially with breweries, but even restaurants, during COVID, it was such an uncertain time that we really didn't do a lot of marketing in the last, year and a half. So you said, I mean, you didn't even know if you were going to be able to have people in the door or have events or, do anything that you normally would. So I think some of it is like dusting off, and getting back in those good habits. But like I said, it's not going to be something that is tomorrow, but this really is something that we should do regardless of if our sales are growing, that it's really just part of our expenses of having our brand is investing in the marketing.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. So I guess what's on the, horizon for you guys in the marketing world? I mean, obviously the, partnership with the brewers in PA, but anything else?
Our company, GK Visual, is the video production company. So we do a lot of political work. So this is a big political year for us, and that keeps us busy for better or worse. So I'll tell you, that world is, it pays the bills, and we're thankful for the work. But man, it just becomes, you want to talk about noise and people trying to get their message and scream louder than the other person. This is that world. But outside of that, we love our clients. We do a lot of nonprofit work. We love to be able to tell those stories. The beer stuff is phenomenal, and we love all the brewers. We've made so many friends in that area too, which is so cool. They're just genuine people. We love just telling stories of people who are building something for themselves and their families and each other and their community. And so we'll always seek out those stories. And then the managing social media for clients is kind of the newer thing for us, and we've really been enjoying doing that. We've brought on to our team 2 social media managers, which we didn't have before. And so they run our accounts. We have GK Visual and Port and PA accounts that they manage and run. And we're launching a line of merchandise through Port and PA. So we'll have a web store with clothing and, but that all that needs messaging and all that needs branding. And so that's what we're working on.
No, it's so great. So thank you again for joining us. And you guys have done such great work for the VA. And it's you have such a cult following at the event in the fall. It's like everyone loves you guys. Like you said, the YouTube. It's been such a great thing that you've done for the industry.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks. It's such a fun group to be around. I mean, you don't even have to talk business. You just sit around, have a beer, and just life happens, you know?
Yes. Well, thank you again, and forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
You.